So there are a lot of talks in AEW this year about a possible blood and guts match. And there are some people saying that it might be, Darby Allin versus John Moxley part 3. And I don't think that's a good idea. There are a lot of people who are also talking about now what I think the better option is that they should do a women's blood and guts match. And the reason why I want to say that is for a couple of reasons. And I have my notebook with me. Is that first of all, AEW is not WWE. WWE is TVPG, sometimes an edgy, light PG 14. So, necessarily you're going to have cage matches and there might be some blood, but that's not really going to be in a lot of the women's matches. Because in America, there's still that taboo of, women being depicted in very violent ways. That's just American culture. But this is not WWE, this is AEW, and AEW has always been about pushing the envelope, being TV 14, sometimes going into that MA category, and that's why it's most appropriate. That this needs to be what AEW is about. Unapologetic and being way more violent. The next thing that I want to say is that there is men's fatigue. And what that means is that we've seen the Texas Death Match, you had the Lights Out match in Forbidden Door. So you might do a trilogy of like hardcore violent matches. And the problem is that Moxley, has done a lot of gory, controversial stuff this year, like getting hit with a nail board. He did the fork spot at Forbidden Door, and obviously at All In, Texas, there wasn't anything that stood out that much, but it was kind of like the only thing that stood out was that Moxley lost after being hung from like the ring and stuff like that. Really, like they were almost a little like tamed in at All In, just because this was like their WrestleMania, so they know like in the main event of WrestleMania in WWE you're not going to have the Undertaker choke slam somebody on like a cinder block. Like they know like they're a little limited when they were at All In really, but what the men's fatigue is really that we've seen Darby Allin, John Moxley, Adam Page and other people do a lot of hardcore shit. So it almost becomes like the Conway Twitty gag and Family Guy becomes a little too much. The next thing is that I want to talk about the Hollywood ending. That when they did AEW Revolution earlier this year, one of the big controversies of that show was that people did not like the main event of Adam Copeland versus Moxley. They actually said that because it was in Hollywood, it wouldn't make sense to have the Hollywood ending. And then the other thing about that is, wouldn't it have made a lot of sense if you did something where, a lot of people were into Tony Storm and that woman that she was feuding with at that time. I'm having some memory issues, but wouldn't it have made sense to like if they had their match at the end because they had a big feud. They also, I believe, main evented the show in Australia, which drew over 11,000 people really. So it just felt like the right time really. So you can kind of show that okay, when we have women's matches or when like we know that the women should main event shows because they have the best match, the best story, or there's a stipulation or there's a lot of intrigue, should we make that the penultimate or should we make that the main event really? And I think that would be really, really important. And I also think the other thing is that WWE has been doing a lot of women's shows. So like I think like they said like during Memorial Day, during like All In, like on that Monday, if I'm correct, they had like a women's event, or like I think it was a Memorial Day Monday. They had like a women's PLE. So you can kind of be like, hey, we're gonna do like we're gonna counter that by having our women be in the main event of a pay-per-view, or if we feel like they're not ready, you make that the penultimate or something like that really, like then that's also good. And then there's two other things for this that this would be good for the women's division, and one of the reasons why this would be good for the women's division is because really the women's division AEW are four people. It's Athena holding up ROH. It's Mercedes with the TBS Championship, winning all the titles that she can, and Tony Storm with her Sunset Boulevard and licentious limericks. And then the fourth person is Willow Nightingale, because Willow Nightingale has been in some big spots, but when you think of AEW right now, it's really those four women and nothing else really. So what if you had a show and you said, hey, as we build up to Blood and Guts, we're gonna have interviews with all 10 women, and we're gonna do like something where each of these women are like talking about what this match means to them, what they want to leave behind, and this could lead to future stories. Or what if you had a stipulation in it that's like, okay, whoever caused their team to win faces Tony Storm at Wrestle Dream, and Mercedes has to look at all the women in the match, and she has to be like, okay, well, who had the best performance, who really has it, and they're going to face Mercedes at Wrestle Dream for the TBS Championship. Like, there's ways to tie in future pay-per-views and future events, really, and future matches. Like, that's kind of one of the things that I think that AEW needs to do more of. Like, what do you do at one pay-per-view that bridges or goes over to the next pay-per-view? So I think these are all very important steps, really. I also think that the next thing that this will do is that it will make the AEW pay-per-views a lot better, because one thing that's not good about AEW pay-per-views, and one thing that really sucks about them, and I'll use the word that does suck, is that they're way too fucking long. If you have a match like this, you can say something like, hey, All Out is just roughly, 3 to 4 weeks away. You can do something like say, oh, we're going to have a bunch of matches and we're not going to put a lot of thought into it. Or we're going to do less matches. Like, we're going to do an 8-match card and have a match that goes like 45 minutes or an hour, really. And that be that, really. So that way you are focusing on the quality instead of the quantity. And then it also stands out as well, really. Because if every show is like 13, 14 matches, including the PLE and all that stuff, you're becoming a very repetitive format. And the format is that AEW cares more about quantity than quality, or if all the matches are something that goes on a little too long and you care about the quality of all the matches, but there's way too much stuff, really, you don't remember it. Like, I would say that All In was not that good of a show to me. It was like the second best pay-per-view this year, or third best. I think the best pay-per-view I saw was Double or Nothing. But All In, the biggest weakness of All In of that fucking show was that it was too fucking long. Like, I couldn't remember a lot of the matches. Like, I honestly felt like I had amnesia, really, because it was on so fucking long, really. So they need to show to their audience that, okay, 3 hours or 4 hours of a show is our maximum, really, and that's good because it makes every show feel different. If you're gonna have Forbidden Door, if you're gonna have like All In be your longest show, Forbidden Door be about like 4 hours. You can do All Out as about 4 hours, and you can be like, okay, then when we do All In at the Prudential Center, we can make that a little bit longer, really. But you have to pick and choose which shows you make super long. So I want to see a pattern of 4 hours maximum. 4 hours, 3.5 to 4 hours is okay. If you go past midnight, fuck you, So when you have matches like this will say, hey, we need to have less matches, and we need to have ones with a lot of quality, or we need to have like maybe 12 matches. And then what you do is that you say, hey, you know what, here are the 8 matches that should be on the card, and here are 4 matches that could be on television, or main events for Collision, or other things like that. So that way we are just picking the best of the best, really. It's almost like, having a wedding. You try out like, 20 different dishes, and you say, hey, out of those 20 different dishes, here are the 3 ones that are bangers, and we're going to keep these 3 bangers. And then I want to talk a little bit more about the Blood and Guts match and how they should do this. I said to myself, if they do this, they should have Bryan Danielson on commentary, because I like him on commentary a lot, really. He's very analytical. He takes it seriously. He puts in a good effort. I would also say that you can also have Adam Cole on there because he's very charismatic. So I think Adam Cole should be a commentator. And I might do a video about like why they should be commentators. I was thinking about like, also possibly Tony Storm and Athena. But the problem with Tony Storm, Athena, and Mercedes as commentators is that Tony Storm her character is an eccentric movie star. So the problem is that if she's on commentary, she's gonna have fun with it, and that's not what we want, really. So you can have her watch the match with Athena and Mercedes. They're all like sitting in chairs, or they have like VIP seating, or they have like a little like place where they sit, really, and or they sit in the crowd, really, and at 3 different parts, really, just to say, okay, how are these champions watching this match and watching what's going on, really. Because it shows that this is serious shit that's going on. I think that's the best way to do it. The next thing is like I said, and I'll say it again to reiterate, is that you don't, is that I thought about this a little more. You don't have Mercedes, and you don't have Tony Storm on commentary because Mercedes is a snob, and Tony Storm is a movie star. So the problem is you're gonna you're gonna ham it up really, and that's not what they need to do. So this is good, and I thought about I thought about stipulations where I said the winner should whoever gets the winning whoever gets the victory for their team should be the winner of should face Tony Storm at Wrestle Dream. Makes sense. You celebrate your winner that way. The next one is that you pick whoever had like the best performance, and it cannot be the winner of the whole thing. Like that person will be facing Mercedes at the tournament, and then you can even do something where Athena looks at all the other women, and then you kind of like have an interview with one of them. Then Athena attacks them, and then they challenge them for a death before dishonor or something like that. And that would be the way to go really. And then if there's some women who have like, if you have like Ty Mello and that other woman she's with, they can either become a tag team, or you have some people who are like, oh well, I would have won if this thing didn't happen or that thing didn't happen. There could be infighting, or this could lead to the teams fighting and having matches on there. Like this the whole thing is that you take 10 different people, 10 different women, and you create a women's division that's not really about Mercedes, Tony Storm, and Athena. You have to like say we have other people here. Really, let's use this to kind of create a genesis of or a redoing or revamping of our women's division. So I was thinking about the people who should be on the heel side. You have the Triangle of Madness, Julia Hart, Sky Blue, Tekla, Chris Statlander, Marina Shafir, Megan Bain, Billy Starks, Athena, Taya Valkyrie, and Camille. And I think her name is Bodzilla, like the woman who was in the AEW Forbidden Door match. So I want to talk about them really quickly. Obviously makes sense. Triangle of Madness. They're the villain team. Julia Hart is like that goth girl into like violent shit. Tekla, didn't she get like fired from a company for attacking the president? So you need to kind of make her more that outlaw type of I don't give a fuck personality. That needs to be her. She crosses lines really. Chris Statlander, she's been a villain wrestler, but she's also a powerhouse. It makes sense for her to do that. Marina Shafir, she's been in the Death Riders. John Moxley can say something like, you need to be in this match. You need to cause your team to win, and you need to take the women's championship. We need to regain all the titles. There's expectations for her to actually do well, and if she succeeds, good. If she fails, Moxley can kick her out, and then you can kind of disband the Death Riders slowly but surely. Megan Bain, another powerhouse wrestler. Billy Starks, Athena can be like, okay, you have to win this one, or else we're not friends anymore, or else I'm going to punish you. Or you can do something where Billy Starks wins, and then Athena says, oh, well, since we've talked backstage, I take your championship, contendership prize, and I do it for myself, really. So you can set up Billy Starks versus Athena and go that way. You can have Athena in this match as well, really, because the heels want to win. Athena is a heel. Taya Valkyrie, she's been in ROH. She's a former Knockouts champion. She does a lot of really great stuff. Take her out of catering, make her actually wrestle. And then you have Camille, who's also a big powerhouse woman, and she was actually feuding. She was actually with Mercedes, so you can do something where she becomes a babyface, and she wants to get back at Mercedes because she's like, hey, you know what? I've been chopped liver, like I've been like on the sidelines, or she'd be like, oh well, I want to. Mercedes is the TBS champion, but I want to take those other titles from somebody else, really, so that way we can both hold women's heavyweight champions as a team, really, and then we get the tag team. So we have 3 titles, and we have we're like a faction with titles. You can do something like that. And then he goes to Bodzilla because I haven't watched that match yet. I'm gonna watch it in a couple of minutes. But it's good because it's good to have wrestlers from different companies, as well sometimes. Because if you have a wrestler like her, that's like a bigger body, powerhouse type, a lot of people are talking about her on the independents. Why not have her involved in this shit, really? Because, AEW is also about incorporating different wrestlers. If they want to sign her to a contract and she does a great job here, this is kind of like a tryout type of thing. The next, on the babyface side, you have Harley Cameron. People like Harley Cameron. Chris Statlander, because in the Forbidden Door, I think she and Willow Nightingale were on the same side. Really makes sense. You have Willow Nightingale. Obviously, people love her. She's kind of like one of the top women in the company. You re-signed her to a contract, so wouldn't you want to do something with Willow Nightingale where you're like, okay, this is how we treat women who re-sign with us. They don't need to go to WWE to become stars. And also Willow Nightingale, she's never been the women's champion, so you should make her the women's champion and give Tony Storm maybe a bit of a break or something like that. Because you don't want to, Flanderize her. Like you have to make other like top women. You have Queen Aminata, who wants to be the first African-born women's champion in AEW. So honestly, she's been doing great stuff. She's been around for like 2 years. She's improving. Why wouldn't you want her to be in this match? Why would you you make a big deal out of her? Like as I said, make sure she's not a floater. Jamie Hayter, she just came back really. This is a way for her to get down and dirty, and have like maybe a roadmap to either getting her revenge on Mercedes, or maybe saying, I want to be the top of the division, or she can be like, what, Ayo, you're such a bitch, Athena, let's just do this, really. You have Alex Windsor. Alex Windsor, she wants to be a babyface type of wrestler, and she's also inspired by Will Ospreay, so you can kind of do it almost like, her man's not there. She wants to prove something, and then you can do something where it's Alex Windsor on this side, and then Marina Shafir on the other side, and then you can create a feud between Windsor and Marina Shafir, really, or you can do Will Nightingale and Marina Shafir, which you should have done, and have something. But Windsor, maybe she wants to be a women's champion at Wembley Stadium, where her fiance Ospreay is there. So there could be like that roadmap of like, my man's not there, and I'm trying to achieve his success, really, or like, or she can even lose, and she can go on like that redemption storyline of, okay, well, I lost a big moment. This hurts. This sucks. Really, I'm down on my luck, and I'm going to rise from the ashes. How am I inspired by Will Ospreay? Or I'm a little off because he's not there anymore. So almost like how love can inspire us to go from lows to highs. Really, there could be like a Hinata Hyuga type of thing about her, where Hinata Hyuga went from low self-esteem, no confidence to fighting her own against pain in the Naruto series. And you have Windsor, like she's like down on her luck because Osprey's not there. She's worried about his health. She's doing too much like he does, and then it fucks with her head, really. And then she gets her cool, and then she's wrestling and trying to get ahead, and then she gets ahead where she has that opportunity at Wembley Stadium against Mercedes or Tony Storm or Athena. The next thing that I would say on my list is Anna Jay. She's done and Ty Mello. I believe they're a team now, but both of them have done bloody, hardcore, violent, off-the-wall shit type of matches. Why aren't you not incorporating them? And then the last person is Britt Baker, because I'm not sure if Britt Baker's going to go into WWE, but she's not been there for a while. But just like with Chris Jericho, it would be nice to give her a send-off, because it's almost like, she's done a lot for the company. She was the first woman signed. It's good to throw her freaking down, to quote Dr. Evil. So I think that it's ultimately, as I said this, that, I think there's a lot of positives. And I think also the big thing that I'm going to say about this is that we know about some of the matches that are going to happen. Like Hangman's going to have a heavyweight championship match. The next thing that's going to happen is that you obviously know it's going to be FTR versus Adam Copeland. And you might do Mark Briscoe versus MJF, or the Hurt Syndicate versus Ricochet and the Gates of Agony. But you also have to get to a point where, like I said, now you know 5 matches that could possibly happen. Can we do something? Can we do something where we get to a point where we're like, okay, let's make something different. Let's just do something else, really. And then the other thing I want to say, the biggest thing about this is that Blood and Guts is not a television match. It should always be on pay-per-view. It should always be on pay-per-view. That makes no fucking sense in any fucking sense of the imagination. Because you take it too far, really. And there are television responders that may not like it going far. Like they had the pizza cutter incident with Chris Jericho, I believe. And then I also believe maybe last year with the Acclaimed and Okada and all those people that that honestly they couldn't go as far, really, because they probably got talked to about the network. But this is a match where people take it too far, really. And the other issue is that, like I said, one of the big benefits of this is also, as I said, that you really, really need to build more women. And all these people have never been in a blood and guts match before. So there is like an intrigue to see how they're going to pull it off. Really, there is a lot of intrigue for this. So with everything said, I think a women's blood and guts match at AEW All Out is the best option. And if you want to make a lot of money, and if you want to make money by setting up the women's division, reorganize it, and do what I've said about this year with AEW, they need to be more organized. They need to say this is our identity as a company. We are hardcore. We are TV 14. We are edgy. We take things far, but not to the level of Combat Zone Wrestling. Really, let's actually be a company about crossing the fucking line. This is the best fucking way to fucking do it. And I'm very sure if Tony Khan fucking has this happen, it's going to do a lot of fucking goodwill for fucking AEW.